It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 165. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is February 1st, 2026, a great day for a podcast about video games and more. So I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for being here. The first order of business, however, is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. To find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly, places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch replay some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. Today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I'll tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the third and final section, the miscellaneous talk section, that's a break from all the video game talk. And I usually like to get into the worldwide world of sports, and that would be the case today as well. I actually went to a sporting event in this past week to tell you about. I saw a win, so that was very nice, and it was a close game, and I had fun going to see it. So I'll tell you about that in the final section of the show. But this is a video game podcast, so we got to get into the video games. And what else did I want to say? Just starting the show off here. It's been very snowy where I live. I'm a North Carolina resident, and we got a whole lot of snow. I think it was like 6 or 7 inches is what they were saying, maybe possibly more than that. It's the most snow I've seen in a long time, so pretty nice. And I guess I can only say that because the power is still on, and hopefully that will remain the case. But other than that, it's been a pretty nice snow, kind of fun to walk around in, and kind of hard to walk around in actually a little bit too. But hopefully everyone out there is doing okay in the cold weather. But let's get into. So what have I been playing? It's been a good couple days, I guess, to be playing some video games because it's not really feasible to be driving around. And I've been playing. What have I been playing? I've been playing one game that I've been playing for a couple weeks now, and that's Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm really back in the loop of playing this daily now. I am able to go in, complete a few daily tasks I like to do, and then sometimes I'll even sit down and start, making some plans of other things to do with my island. So I think I'm pretty much back into the groove of playing this game, and I'm having a whole lot of fun with it. The most important thing I'd like to remind you or tell you about this week is that Isabel is here. She has shown up on my island. My island became developed enough. I have enough villagers on there that it was time for Isabel, the best character in the Animal Crossing universe, to show up and start her daily announcements and being able to go talk to her in the new resident building. And I got my first rating from her, and it's a 1-star island, but that's okay because I'm going to work to get my island better. And I'm going to work to get KK Slider to show up. I thought I was going to be able to get KK once. I thought I was going to be able to get KK to show up earlier, but I forgot I got to get my island credibility and star rating up. So that's what I'm currently working on, amongst a bunch of other things in Animal Crossing that you can be working on because there's all sorts of things to do. And that's the thing I've been reminded about this game. You can take this game in any direction you want to, and that's pretty fun. But there's definitely many, many tasks around you all the time, even if it's just cleaning up your island, shaking fruit loose, or talking to your villagers, or doing some fishing, or picking up seashells, or picking up fossils and turning those into blathers, and then maybe doing a little bit of shopping, and you have to go to your Nook terminal each day. So there's a bunch of stuff to do, and that's all. That's all just kind of normal stuff. And then you can, redesign your island. You can customize things. You can you need to design things. You have to plant flowers. You need to really, really think about the look and feel of your island and have some kind of theme or like coherentness to it to be able to get your star rating up. So that's something I got to work towards. You don't have to get a 5-star island to get KK, but I think you have to at least get a 2 or 3-star island would be my guess. And I don't think I'm really that close because I've been leaving my island pretty natural so far and just kind of trying to build things up a little bit and keep it moving. I've been trying to get my money up in that game, and I bought some turnips today. I spent 90,000 bells in turnips. I built a little fence to keep my turnips in. I enclosed the fence after I put the turnips in there so none of my villagers can come in and steal them, because I was worried about that. But I've read online, and I remember from my first playthrough, that it is okay to leave your turnips outside. and my house is, pretty well decorated for the one room I have in it. And I've been keeping my turnips in there, but I've been saving up kind of all week preparing for Sunday to buy turnips, and hopefully I'll be able to flip them for a pretty good profit in the upcoming week. I'm hoping to 6 times my money. That would be nice. If I'm able to, well, either way, if I get 6 times my money in this game, I'm going to buy a bridge. That's the first thing I want to do. And then I would maybe pay off my house loan would be next. Even though I really don't need too much of a bigger house at the moment, but it would be nice, I guess. I've been like buying stuff from the shop that I think is cool or just want to have. It could give me some more room to display those things, but I kind of need to focus a little more on the outside and get the island looking good so I can get KK sliders show up. So my main thing would be watching for turnips this week. You have to check twice during the day, once in the morning time, once in the afternoon for the turnip prices. I'm using a turnip tracker online, and you have to remember the how much it fluctuated in the past week. So it can be like, well, or what the style of, I don't know what they call it, but it was like, did you have a small spike last week? Was it fluctuating? Was it a large spike? And you have to put that trend into the turnip tracker. It says, what happened last week, and then you put in how much you spent on Sunday, and then it's going to give you projections for when you're going to be able to get the best deal. So I think I'm in the ballpark for a 6 times, but that can change on a day-to-day or a morning to afternoon basis in this game. So having so much fun back playing this game again. I guess it's been long enough since I played it the first time, and I guess I really can't speak on any of the new updates besides that it looks really good on Switch 2, and it's fun to play in handheld on Switch 2 because I think it's a really comfortable console. And yeah, so I just want to have KK sliders show up, and I want to build a bridge so I can access another part of my island a lot easier to kind of get the resources from there and build my character up. So hopefully I'll be making some money this week in Animal Crossing New Horizons and enjoying Isabelle being in the resident building so I can, say what's up to Isabelle. And that's already a 10 out of 10 video game right there. So I've been having a whole lot of fun with that game. That's kind of been the main thing I've been playing. I did jump back into a game from last year, and that's Donkey Kong Bonanza. So I'm back making some progress here. I'm trying to kind of mainline the story for the most part, or like the main pathway in this game. There's a lot of like exploratory stuff you can do. You can buy maps, you can collect gems, you can look for bananas, you can do challenge rooms. But I'm pretty much just trying to kind of get to the end of the game and then see if I want to do any of the extra stuff afterwards. I still am a little bit iffy on this game. I definitely like a lot about it, but I don't know if I can completely pinpoint what I don't like about it. I did write some notes on it. I might not necessarily like the style of DK, the change in the way he looks. I don't think maybe it's the worst, but I've never been able to find a good like clothing combination or like outfit to make DK look cooler. You can change up his fur color, you can change up his tie, you can change up his shorts, and I don't know if I haven't come across enough of the stores or whatever, but I feel like I have, and I don't think any of them, besides I just kind of settled back on making him look like normal Donkey Kong, so just his typical color fur and more of just kind of like standard clothes, and I think it looks a little more normal, or looks a little more like appealing to me in this world, instead of seeing like a bright yellow Donkey Kong with red shorts and like a bow tie that spins around. It just kind of looks kind of crazy. It doesn't really look like Donkey Kong, I guess. And my other thing I wrote down was I wish there was maybe more straightforward platforming. Maybe even thinking about it now, that's maybe the thing I don't like about it. They have the different power-ups, and I think maybe they're a little too gimmicky. I kind of dislike most of the time I have to use them. And I think that's a fine line in platform games. I'm thinking about Mario Odyssey with Cappy, where if you asked me if I wanted to have like a mechanic like that to change up the game drastically, I would maybe say no. I would just kind of want more of a standard platformer. That would just kind of be my preference. But I think they did Cappy in a good enough way where it meshes into the world so well that it just becomes like pressing another button on the controller kind of thing. It's not really, you're not really having to thinking about it too much, and it ends up doing really cool creative things. And then even in Astrobot, some of the gimmicks in that game, they were hard for me to understand how they wanted me to use the DualSense, the controller, in like a particular way. But then once I figured it out, it was fun to do, and they were pretty short-lived, and they would change them up. And then it also would have, the majority of it just being some straight-up platforming. So I think those are some of the differences of what I dislike about Donkey Kong Bonanza. I still think it's a good game. I just think there's some things that aren't really hitting for me. But the thing I wrote that I do like about this game, it controls amazing. Like walking around as Donkey Kong in this game, smashing stuff. Just the control layout of pressing B is a smash down
I think that's really interesting and cool, and really it is just walking around this world. Maybe I'm just not patient enough to walk around this world and just smash things all day and walk around, but the controls in this game feel really amazing, and the game does look really, really great. And one thing I do want to say, I've heard people complaining about the camera in this game, and that's one thing. I think I've played, I don't know, maybe 20 hours of this game. Maybe not that many. Maybe it's in the 10 to 20. I'm not sure. But I played a good portion of this when it came out, and I was like, man, I've never had any problems with the camera. I'm not really seeing this. I hear a lot of people complaining about this, but it's not something I'm noticing. And then in the second, little burst I've been playing in this past week, I've been noticing some camera issues where it's not an issue. You just kind of have to wait a second for it to figure itself out, or for you to hit a different angle. So it's not, I don't think it's really too much of an issue because of the ability to be able to move around the world so much. I think it's probably worth it, but I did notice a little bit of that, but I don't think I'm going to put that as a knock on it for me, really. I think it's more just about the style of platforming in the game, and then not being able to find a Donkey Kong that I think looks cool. I think that's kind of disappointing too, but I've been having some fun with this. I would like to complete this game just of like the main story kind of baseline thing, and then see if I want to play more of it. So that's what I've been, I was doing that a little bit earlier in the week, so I need to see if I'm going to get back into some Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I'm pretty close. I think I'm on the 1203 or 4 sub layer, and I think once I go to the next place, I think that's the last area possibly. So I think I could be pretty close to completing this, and I will continue to think about my thoughts on this game because I need to, but I'll continue playing and let you know for sure what's going on with me in Donkey Kong Bonanza. All right, something else I've picked up in the last couple of days and then I've been playing. I was playing this a good bit last night in the snowstorm here, and that was Pokemon Sword. So I've been making some progress here. I beat the grass gym. I guess that was last week, and then I beat the water gym today. That was Nessa, or I beat her yesterday, and now I'm moving on to the fire gym. I'm down in the mines, and I just talked to the fire trainer, and I'm now going to go to I guess once I exit the mines, you go kind of more to the city and go to the area where I'm going to battle him. But I'm already preparing. I picked Sobble as my main character, and he's evolved in. Can't think of his name for who he's evolved into, but he looks more like teenager Sobble, and he's my strongest Pokemon so far. And I've been training up a Gyarados because I'm going into the fire gym next, and I have a couple. I've been getting a little bit back into Pokemon recently. I've been on a kick of deciding which one to play for a while since I've bought some old handhelds and things like that. And then I've started, picking up some packs of Pokemon cards here and there when I go to my local video game store, and there's nothing I really want to buy. I've been, randomly just picking up a few packs here and there. So I've just been thinking about Pokemon a little more, and I got some of my, I've been trying to get your party straight in this game. You want to be able to plan for different weaknesses and things like that. But I have a couple Pokemon that I think are some of my, new favorite ones. My old favorite Pokemon from back in the day would be like Clefairy and Blastoise and Snorlax. I think those are my probably 3 from my, I guess the original 151. I don't know why I said like whatever, like I did, from the original 151 Pokemon. And some of my more, new age ones I'm liking, I have on my team here. I got Vileplume. I guess Vileplume's an old one, but I just realized that even Gloom was pretty cool, but I used the stone to evolve Gloom into Vileplume, so that's the first Pokemon in Sword that I have that's got to the 3rd evolution, so that's pretty cool. And then my Yamper has evolved into Boltund, which Boltund, once I saw that Pokemon recently, I was like, man, this kind of looks like my dog Daisy a little bit in a way. It reminds me of her, and it's instantly gone up there to being, one of my favorite Pokemon, Boltund, and even Yamper, I guess. Yamper is extremely cute too, but just Boltund specifically is one of my new favorite Pokemon. And in battle up there, going to battle with Clefairy and Blastoise and Snorlax and some of the others. So I've been on a Pokemon kick here. I'm looking to take down the grass gym next, and I'm trying to think. I've been having fun. I think I've been having more fun with this than I was with Z through A. I think I just like this style of combat better. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if I like the open world kind of ness better than the city aspect. I think maybe the city aspect was it gets a little bit dull because it's so samey is how I was feeling. And you do want to climb up in Z through A and get on top of buildings, but it just kind of, then it's basically like 2 settings. You're either on the ground in the city or you're on top of a building in the city. And there's not really too much variation. And I think that's pretty, it it hasn't really made me want to, push too forward in this game. And I like the differences so far in Sword, and that's something I'm noticing going kind of back to this one about some things I do like about it. And I've been having some fun with trying to figure out which Pokemon I like. So I'm rolling with Vileplume and Boltund right now are two of my favorites, and I'll keep you updated on my Pokemon adventures out here. All right, so those have been the main things I've really been playing in the past week. This is the year of the front log on the Dep Lewis Show, so that's the theme for the year. The theme I'm focusing on the new games coming out of what I want to play. And I think so no backlog list making, no trying to, go back to the beginning of a franchise if I haven't played the new one. I'm just going to focus on the new game. If I want to play it, I'm gonna play it if I want to, kind of thing. And so I did create a little bit of a front log list, and there's only 2 games on there. I don't know if this first one's a home run of something I want to purchase, but maybe it is, and that's Mario Tennis Fever on February 12th. And the reason I want to buy this game, or I'm enticed to, is because of the online play. I don't know if prior Mario Tennis Fever or Mario Tennis games have had like matchmaking, or maybe you could just play against your friends, but this one definitely has ranked matchmaking, and that has me interested. And some of my favorite games in the past couple of years have definitely been like Nintendo multiplayer games like Splatoon 3 or Mario Kart. So I think it would be, I think there's probably a strong chance I could end up really, really liking this. And I have a good bit of hope going into February 12th for Mario Tennis Fever. So that might be the next game I pick up. And then the number one game I'm most excited for right now of the entire year is Forza Horizon 6. And this comes out May 19th on Xbox and maybe PC. I don't know if PC at launch, and then it's going to come to PS5 at a later date in the year. So I'm going to have to wait to play this later in the year on PS5. But if I have to guess, that's going to be my game of the year for this year, and the one I'm definitely most looking forward to. So I've even thought, hey, maybe I'll play through Forza Horizon 5 again, see how that, runs and plays on the PS5. Maybe look if it goes on sale sometime in the near future. I'm sure it will. And I know it has been on sale before too. So I don't know. That was something else I was thinking about, maybe because I'm going to be pretty bummed on May 19th when people on Xbox are playing this, and I no longer have my Xbox, and I'm going to have to be patient. And I already said, hey, that might not be my ultimate strong suit, but I'm excited for Forza Horizon 6, and those are really the 2 games on my year of the front log. I know Resident Evil 9 comes out very, very soon, and maybe I'm just a little bit too scared to play that game. Maybe I just would like to play those games more than I actually do, but I'm definitely interested in that, and it's a maybe, but I didn't want to put it actually on the front log list quite yet. So that's everything I've been playing in the past week: Animal Crossing New Horizons, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Pokemon Sword, and we talked a little bit about it being the year of the front log. All right, so that's everything for the intro of the show. That's going to wrap up the first section. You're going to hear some lovely break music from friend of the show and friend of real life Ballness. And then we're going to come back for the midsection where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 165. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the first thing I want to tell you about was something that took place last Sunday after the podcast. And I guess I recorded on Saturday last week because of the ice storm, and now this week we have a snowstorm, but I was able to record at normal time. But there was a Super Mario Galaxy movie direct that took place last Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I did not watch this, but I just kind of looked at the general news after this, and this was featuring an exclusive look at the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Please note that no game information will be included in the presentation, and the news from this was the movie will land in theaters on April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2 days earlier than first announced to align with other international releases. So I think they also showed off Yoshi in this trailer a good bit, and the release date was the main bit of information from the Super Mario Galaxy movie direct. I still haven't seen the first Mario movie, like of the more recent ones, the one that came out a couple years ago or whatever it was. I have a little bit of interest in seeing that, but I just not too much, I guess. It's been out for a little bit of a while. But the Super Mario Galaxy movie is coming to theaters on April 1st. All right, so Nintendo has been rolling on with the presentations. They did a Tomodachi Life Living the Dream Direct that took place last week on January 29th. It was roughly 20 minutes and providing more info on the upcoming Nintendo Switch game. And the back-of-the-box talk on this is create Mii characters based on anyone you like and watch the fun and drama unfold on an island you create and customize. Watch over your island and stumble upon little LOL moments as you get to know your Miis and they get to know each other. Will they become friends, sweethearts, or perhaps something more complicated? Only time will tell. So the news for Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, is going to release on Nintendo Switch on April 16th, 2026, and it's going to be $59.99 US dollars. I don't have any familiarity in the past with playing a Tomodachi game, but for me, after watching this direct from Nintendo, it looks to me like Animal Crossing kind of meets The Sims. And what else did I notice about this? And I guess there's more relationship things in here with the characters. I think that's kind of one of the main mechanics of being like a romantic relationship or a friendly relationship. And the other thing I noticed about this game was the voice acting. It seems like you're maybe going to be able to pick from or type in certain words, and the characters are actually going to be able to say it. It has a very like robotic sound to the voice. It sounds like kind of low quality, but it has some kind of charm to it. It seems like there's going to be some pretty funny stuff going on in here. I don't think this one has. I'm someone who's I've been talking about Animal Crossing, but I think this one seems like, hey, I already have Animal Crossing at home. It's one of those kind of arguments for me, but I don't know. I think this one's interesting. I think a lot of people have a lot of love for this franchise, and maybe it's just something I've never really taken the time to see or have noticed it or whatever. So this would be a good opportunity for me to see what other people are saying and watch some gameplay. And I think I could be swayed to play this game because it definitely has elements of things I like, but it seems maybe a little bit too open-ended, which I guess I don't dislike open-ended, but it's maybe more just about like character drama, and I don't know if that's what I would be into. But Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream Direct took place last week, and if you want to watch that, you can go watch it now on Nintendo's YouTube, or you can watch, there's a lot of outlets will do talkovers. I watched Giant Bomb do this. I think MinMax had a talkover of this as well. So Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream Direct. That game's coming April 16th. All right, what else is going on around the video game world that you need to know? One of my favorite games of all time and a Dep Lewis Show Game of the Year winner, Splatoon 3, had a free update, 11.0.0, which is available right now. It's bringing some new mechanics and other changes to freshen things up in the Splatlands. And this one had me worried because these are seemingly some big changes, and I played the game last night just for a couple rounds, and I don't think it's anything too drastic in a bad way, because I'll explain to you in a little bit. But the new update available now for Splatoon 3 is changing a few things, one of those being Flow Aura. So Inklings and Octolings who splat multiple opponents in quick succession will enter a new state called Flow Aura. As this state is activated, a burst of ink will paint the ground around the player. Flow Aura lasts for about 30 seconds, during which time players will get a boost to their run speed, swim speed, ink resistance, which I think those are my three favorite perks in this game, and intensify action. But if you make use of those boosts to splat more opponents or assist your teammates in doing so, then you can extend the duration of Flow Aura even further. So that one, nothing, sounds like you get to go a little bit Super Saiyan there for a bit. I don't really have too much of a problem with that, and an interesting new addition, and pretty decent change right there, just in general. So they've also updated the health bar. It's now possible to see an opponent's remaining health when they've been hit. Previously, you can only see how damaged an enemy was by looking closely at how much ink they were covered in. So I've never really noticed that. I never really noticed that the amount of ink they were covered in was correlated to their health. I guess that completely makes sense, but it's just never something I've noticed in the course of the game. It was kind of more of a situation of like playing Halo, and you're shooting the character, and you kind of just know how many shots they're going to take or how long it's going to take for them to go down. And now you have a health bar, so that's pretty nice. It did take me a little bit to notice the health bar in the game, but I still don't know. I guess it's a pretty useful thing. I think it's more of a useful thing in the situation of like, do you press forward or do you move back in the battle? So I think it gives you a little more information. Now thinking about it, that could be nice. I didn't notice how helpful it was in the couple rounds I played, but I'm sure over time that'll be like, okay, I can't. That just seems like a simple addition that even if it's anything, it's just a little bit helpful, and that's nice. Excuse me. So what else did they add in this update to Splatoon 3? This was the one I was most worried about, and an update to hit detection. So there were some changes to how easy, or they have in parentheses, or difficult it is to hit opponents. The area around an opponent known as a hitbox, so talking like a fighting game like Street Fighter, has been made slightly smaller when in swim form. So it makes the hitbox similar to that of the hitbox in kid form, and should stop Inklings and Octolings in swim form from being hit when they're hiding behind walls or around corners. So I think that sounds good to me. I like being able to be a little more stealthy. I do spend maybe half of my time in swim mode in this game, and I think this one kind of benefits me. I guess it makes it harder for me to hit other players, but it also gives me the benefit of being sneakier. So I don't think this is the worst. I think this one could have maybe been worse if they like upped the hitbox to make it easier to hit people. I think that could have been a detriment to this. I think they did some small changes to some weapons in this game. The main one I use is the splatter shot, and I think they did change some things to that, but I didn't really notice too much of a difference. I played a couple rounds, and I was kind of finishing normally where I was and playing pretty decently, even though I don't think I got any wins in those matches. The last thing they added in this update is a stealth jump. And the stealth jump gear ability allows players to jump to their teammates without the opposing team necessarily seeing where they will land. To prevent this from allowing teams to overwhelm opponents too easily, the flight time for super jumps is increased depending on the distance, but only when the gear with stealth jump is equipped. So I'm not really too much of a stealth jumper. I'm not even really too much of a jump on your teammate person in this game because I'm playing solo most of the time. And you don't want to really spawn on your teammate just in the midst of the battle if you're not communicating with them really, because you're basically just going to be spawning in enemy territory, and you could put yourself in a bad situation, most of the time you're probably going to put yourself in a bad situation. They're probably battling it out with, numerous enemies, and you're putting yourself right in the mix, and maybe their health is really low, and then you're coming in, and it's just, another reset, another death for you, and you have to, respawn. So I usually just kind of spawn on my base. I use it as an opportunity to spray ink on my base and, get some areas that maybe we missed or got covered up, and then kind of get back into the battle. And I guess it takes me a little bit longer to get back into the battle, but that's been the way I've been playing Splatoon 3 since it's come out. And I'm just really thankful for this game, and I think it's cool that they're updating it and thinking about the quality of it. And I've been having a lot of fun with this, and I will continue to be playing Splatoon 3 until they release Splatoon 4. So really, really great video game, and update 11.0.0 is available right now. All right, staying on the Nintendo side of things, there's a new subsector, a new category of games coming to Nintendo Classics. That's the Nintendo Switch Online service that you have to pay for. And on February 17th, that is the announcement here, the date announcement for the Virtual Boy being added to Nintendo Classics. So you do not have to have the expansion. It does not look like to me. So this is the base Nintendo Switch Online. You're going to be able to access the Virtual Boy, and this is going to be for Switch 1 and 2. The following titles they've announced are going to be available at launch: Galactic Pinball, Tele-Row Boxer, Red Alarm, Virtual Boy Wario Land, 3D Tetris Golf, and the Mansion of Innsmouth. I guess that's what I'll go with. And I have no familiarity with the Virtual Boy. I never played it, never knew anybody who had one, really didn't know too much about it. I think it's interesting looking. Even seeing this title, I think, a pinball game could be fun. I think a Wario Land is a series I wanted to play at some point. And then Tetris is a classic video game that it can be fun at any time, anytime throughout history. But Virtual Boy, the games are coming to Nintendo Switch Online on February 17th. And I don't know if those Virtual Boy accessories have shipped yet, but they are $99.99 US dollars, $99.99 US dollars for the accessory for the replica of the original hardware. It's sold out currently, but I did see a note where you can please check back beginning February 16th to purchase while supplies last. So you do need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to purchase one of these, but if you want to get a hold of the Virtual Boy accessory to play these games, you can maybe get a chance of doing so on February 16th. So the original phase or whatever of those being shipped out, they're all sold out. I don't know if people have actually received those yet, but I guess you would assume they're going to try to get those to people before the release of the games on Nintendo Classics on the 17th. The original release of the Virtual Boy was in 1995, and I'll be glad to see some streams of people playing those and check them out and let you know if I think anything is extremely cool there. All right, what other news do I have for you? A fighting game, Virtua Fighter 5, they're calling it R.E.V.O. World Stage, has been confirmed for Nintendo Switch 2 on March 26, 2026. It's going to be $19.99 US dollars. The Pioneer 3D fighting series continues to evolve, taking the gameplay of Virtua Fighter 5 to new heights. Rollback netcode and crossplay support let you take on any challenger anywhere across the globe in the most intense battle yet. A brand new single-player mode, World Stage, challenge powerful rivals on a solo quest to become the ultimate fighter, enhanced replay functionality, and improved training tools. And I think that all sounds really cool, and I think the price tag on that's very nice too. So I think the Switch 2 is doing a great job currently about getting some third-party stuff on the system, and if it can run really well, you can get a fighting game, got rollback netcode, cross-play, running on the Switch 2 hardware, which is, if it's optimized properly, you can run some really, really great stuff, as we've seen with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Cyberpunk, and Assassin's Creed, Star Wars Outlaws. A lot of these big open-world third-party games are running, decently on the Switch, and it's definitely a viable way to play these games, in my opinion. And this is an older game. Virtua Fighter 5 was released in North America 2007. So, taking an old game, adding some things to it, giving it a reasonable price tag, I think is just a really nice thing to have as an option on the console. And Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O World Stage, you'll be able to play that on Switch on March 26, 2026. All right, this next collection of games I think sounds pretty interesting. I think I'm a little bit tempted to want to buy this. I don't think I've played any of these games previously, but they have announced the Disney Afternoon Collection. This is a Switch 2 official announcement for February 26th. I don't know if this is coming to other platforms. I guess I would assume it is, at least coming to Steam. But I can't confirm that at this moment. But the Switch version is going to be on cart. It will contain 2 additional games, new modes, a boss rush, a time attack museum, and a rewind function. So this is a collection, I guess came out previously. Now they're adding 2 new games to it. These are all older games. So the games that will be included in the Disney Afternoon Collection will be Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers 2, DuckTales, DuckTales 2, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin Bonkers, which is new, and Goof Troop, which is new. And these are all cartoons, that I knew from being a kid. Definitely was a fan of some DuckTale or some Darkwing Duck and some Goof Troop in there. A lot of these other series that are highly revered by people, especially like, I guess, older gamers are into these franchises, and something that, I can have some interest in these. I think these are games more from the NES era. I don't know if they get in the Super Nintendo or not. I really don't know too much history on the backstory of these games, but if this is a reasonably priced collection, I could see myself being interested in this. I'm not really the biggest Disney person, but I think these franchises in particular are interesting, and I think they could be fun to have in one package. So the Disney Afternoon Collection is coming to Switch on February 26th. All right, a game that came out last year and I had a lot of fun with is Ball Pit, or Ball X Pit, Ball Times Pit. And there's a new free update available for this game right now. It's called the Regal Update. It's available now and it's for free, and it adds a wealth of new content to the game, including new characters, new balls, new passives, and a brand new mode that players have been crying about since launch apparently, and that's Endless Mode. And if you don't know about Ball Pit, it's a brick-breaking, ball-fusing, base-building, survival roguelite. Battle. It might be batter. You want to batter your hordes of enemies with ricocheting? Yeah, you want to batter them. You want to batter hordes of enemies with ricocheting balls and gather the riches of the pit to expand your homestead, generate resources, and recruit unique heroes. The base game is $14.99 US for Ball Pit, and it looks like a sale is going on right now too if you want to play this on Steam. I did not check the other platforms, but I could assume maybe there's some other sales going on as well, trying to get people in there and entice them with, hey, there's even more content than there's ever been in Ball Pit right now. All right. What else? So this is an announcement. I guess this was a date announcement. I don't know if this was completely announced, but Scott Pilgrim EX is coming out on March 3rd, 2026. It's coming out multi-platform, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch and Steam. There were physical copies of this that were available for pre-order on limited run, but they are all sold out. I think the Scott Pilgrim games are highly collectible. I think they are highly sought after, and I think some of them can even be expensive. I've seen the Scott Pilgrim movie and did like that, but I've never gotten into a Scott Pilgrim game. But I think Scott Pilgrim has a bigger fan base than I even realized, and it definitely has at least a cult kind of following, and the fan base might, like I'm saying, be even bigger than I think it is. But the physical copies that are sold out right now, they were $39.99 US, so I guess we can maybe expect the digital version maybe to be $29.99 or something, would be just a guess on my part. The developer and publisher for this is Tribute Games Inc., and the back of the box talk on Scott Pilgrim EX, and even the EX has me thinking about Pokemon. I've been playing the card game on my iPhone, where it's basically just like a card collector app, but I've been having some fun with that, and it lets you see kind of some of the old packs and all the different cards, and you can like put them in a binder in there. It's pretty fun to do. So just back thinking about some Pokemon in relation to the Scott Pilgrim EX. But the back of the box talk on Scott Pilgrim EX is Toronto 20XX, when Scott Pilgrim's bandmates are abducted by shadowy forces. A brand new brawling adventure begins. Scott Pilgrim EX takes players on a wild ride through the sprawling streets of Toronto, battling 3 new enemy factions across space and time. Engage in creative combat, upgrade your characters, and discover hidden secrets. So it definitely looks cool. The art style in this game looks amazing, and I think the music is supposed to be good in these games, and I just wanted to put this one on my radar a little more and put it on your radar as well. All right, this video game, I don't know if you've ever heard this one because, this is not a classic, really great selling, world-renowned video game, but that's Final Fantasy VII, and there's an update to that on the Steam version. So the 2013 edition on Steam is getting a re-release. Both versions will remain accessible in the owner's Steam library, but I guess at some point they're gonna, delist the 2013 version. They're gonna have this new 2026 version. It will be the only one available to actually purchase going forward. So there's no notes currently on what exactly is changing in this update or a date. Current version owners will keep access and contain the new version at no extra cost. So that's very nice, and something that, over time more and more games are getting stuff added to them, which is nice. So that's something to say. There's a lot of arguments there about, people wanting to buy the game on the cart. Got to have the full download on the cart, and I do respect that and think that's, generally the way you'd want to go. But there's often times where, like this, they're doing the right thing on the back end. They're updating the game and giving you a free way to update it. So I think that these are small little victories out there, and they can happen from time to time. I think Xbox is actually one of the best at doing this, and I'm thinking about that Gears of War Reloaded, of where they're putting some updates on the game. I guess that's what I was saying. It's nice to get things added to the game after the fact, and even like Ball Pit, getting the update. If they released that game prior, that wouldn't have been on the card. So we do get some nice stuff after the fact, and I guess I'm just I appreciate that sometimes too. So Final Fantasy VII is getting a re-release on Steam. It's $11.99 normally, but it's on sale right now for $4.79. So if you wanted to pick this game up currently, you'd be able to get that new version whenever they do release it. Now, I wouldn't imagine it's going to be drastically different, but if they are making this big of a hubbub about it, it's got to be some decent improvements to the game, or the way it runs or looks would be my limited guess. All right, so that's the Final Fantasy VII news. Now, kind of into some more third-party stuff here for the rest of the midsection. There's a game coming out that's being created, developed and published by Bungie, the famous creators of Halo and Destiny, and they're making a game called Marathon. And Marathon's a franchise, I guess, from the past. They're reviving it, I guess is the case here. And in Marathon, it's a scavenge the lost colony Tau Ceti 4 as a bio-cybernetic runner in a PvPvE extraction first-person shooter from the creators of Halo and Destiny. So I think the only things in there that I'm really interested in would be the creators of Halo and Destiny. I don't think I'm looking too much forward to a PvPvE extraction FPS. I think that's a really, really tough market for all of these developers, even Bungie, to crack at this point. And we'll talk about another one of those kind of games in a bit here. But the news here with Marathon is they've announced a limited edition DualSense, which is $84.99 US dollars, and a Pulse Elite headset, which is $169.99. The controller and headset are inspired by Marathon's bold graphics and industrial surfaces. This limited edition controller blends clean lines, high contrast colors, and vivid accents. Its futuristic design is tuned for precision, ready to power every high-stakes run. So I'm looking at the release of this game. The game controller and headset releases on March 5th, and I'm a little bit worried for it. I think this one could come out and be a flop. I think this game, I don't think it's free to play, but don't quote me on that. I think that's really a huge factor of trying to get a player base these days, especially if you're trying to enter a genre that's overly saturated. But Marathon is going to be releasing on March 5th for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows. So go check out those controllers if you're just a big Bungie fan or something like that, or even a Marathon fan from back in the day. It could be the perfect controller for you to want to pre-order. All right, Nioh 3 is a video game that has a demo available now. So that's the news here about Nioh 3. The save data will carry over. This is a Dark Samurai action RPG series. You will need to use both samurai and ninja combat styles in your battles against formidable yokai as you explore a thrilling open field. So we've been seeing a lot of games that have been doing this, of giving you the two different styles going on, or which one to switch back and forth to. And I don't know if that's ultimately, I think, game will probably go back to having a one character protagonist at some point in the future, but we are definitely seeing a two style narrative going on. I guess we've seen it with Assassin's Creed. I guess we've seen it a little bit in Ghost of Yotei. We've definitely seen it in I guess Assassin's Creed's the main one I'm thinking of. We've seen it in the Assassin's Creed in Japan and one of the one prior ones as well. And then I'm trying to think what other games has two, the difference between a samurai and a ninja. But either way, I think that's maybe being a little bit overdone at this point. But Nioh 3 is a game a lot of people are looking forward to. It releases on February 5th on PS5 and Steam, developed and published by Koei Tecmo Games. And I don't know if like Team Ninja's involved in there. I don't know. I meant to clarify that a little bit more. But I haven't played a Nioh game. They seem a little bit too difficult for me. But you never know. Maybe one day I'll be playing all the Soulsborns and Soulsborns likes and blah 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 blah. But I'm just not sure at this time. But Nioh 3, I think I'll be excited to watch people play this and talk about it and see what it looks like. So that's going to release on February 5th, and a demo available now. That was the news there. All right, this next game I wouldn't normally talk about because I think it mainly looks kind of like a mobile game. But hey, I did say I'm playing that Pokemon mobile game now, so that's it's been the first mobile game I've played really since like Doodle Jump when that first released. But Reigns, The Witcher, has got a reveal trailer, so I do like the Witcher franchise, and that's why I wanted to mention this here. And the back of the box talk on this is how will your story evolve? Craft your adventure in this card swiping decision making game from Nioh and Devolver Digital. So I hope I'm saying Nioh correctly, but Devolver Digital has their hands in a lot of video games. So Reigns, The Witcher is coming on February 25th to iOS, Android, Mac, and PC. So I think, Gwent is the card game from The Witcher. Gwent had its own spin-off game, and I guess this is a little bit of an evolution of, hey, we like mini games in the Witcher franchise, and here's a new opportunity at that. And people like card games. I guess cards are pretty hot right now in general, and this could be a decent option. I don't know if this would be enough to get me to actually try this game, but I just wanted to mention that Reigns, The Witcher is coming on February 25th. All right, a couple more things to talk about here to close out the midsection. This one I kind of alluded to a little bit ago, but that's Highguard. We talked about this last week. This was the game that closed out the end of the Game Awards. That was the first time we heard about it. They went radio silent for like a month. They said, hey, our game's coming out in 3 days. And it launched. It had 100,000 people playing or 90,000 people playing it concurrently on the first day. And I think the last time I checked, I wrote down Saturday morning, it was 9K players playing. So I think that's kind of been more of the average it's fallen down to, which I guess isn't terrible. But if you look at other common multiplayer games, they have a lot more players in them. But Highguard released. It's a PvP raid shooter where players will ride, fight as wardens, arcade gunslingers sent to fight for control of a mythical continent. Developed and published by Wildlight Entertainment Inc., which is I guess some Respawn employees have created this new development studio, and I think this is their first game, but might not be all the way true on those details, but I believe that's the case. And Highguard released on January 26th. I watched Giant Bomb play this, I watched MinMax, and I watched Nextlander play this. I think Haley McLean from MinMax was enjoying this the most out of anyone I've seen, but she was playing with two of her friends that she plays multiplayer games with normally. And I think this game looks, generally okay. I just don't think it has anything in particular to point out from it. I don't think it's really doing anything too new. It's a 3-on-3, which is a choice that was made. And it seems a lot of complaints were, hey, the map it seems a little bit too open for 3-on-3. But, originally they were saying, hey, this is going to help for a smaller team being able to matchmake with the 3-on-3. That's what they were kind of, going with originally. Hey, we're really balancing it for the 3-on-3. And I respected that a little bit. But then I saw the other day that they've just added 5v5 in. And I guess they are in a little bit of scramble mode here with their release. But, scramble mode, it's not good. And it might end in a sack if you're going to go for a sports analogy. But, they're scrambling and they're adding 5v5. So, how dedicated to the 3v3 theory and concept really were you? I mean, obviously you weren't. Maybe you were holding it back to add later in the game. So it just seems like a really, I don't know. I want to say bad attempt, but it's just, I know these developers have had these games, cooking for a while, but just really, really not hitting the mark on what people want at all, and not doing anything really too different with this game. I think everything in it looks fine, but I think with just all the other options that we have out there, it's really going to be hard to pull people away from those games, or it's going to be really hard for, if you came to the market of games and wanted to pick one of these style of games, it's really, really going to be hard to go to Highguard at this point. That to be the one you pick, and everyone really be on board with it, kind of thing. So I think it's just really tough, and I think it looks like a decent game, but I don't have too much hope for the long-term future of Highguard, and I guess they don't as well if they're really I guess it's good they're switching it up because they need to, but I don't know. I don't know if 9K players is sustainable for them. They did say they were trying to make this game a little more sustainable for a smaller group, smaller teams, so they can handle. So maybe it will end up being okay. But Highguard, definitely a little bit of a contentious release for that one. That got a really, really giant, huge marketing push, and that's kind of been the question. I was listening to Nextlander, and they were saying, would they go back and want that marketing push, or would they do it again if they had the choice? And would you want all the eyeballs and then potentially flop, or would you want to not have as many eyeballs and try to grow organically and may possibly never grow into anything? So I think those are kind of the two arguments there. I think Nextlander said it's a double-edged sword, and I do kind of agree with that. I think it kind of falls into the 2020 is hindsight thing, but I think maybe more of the decision here was the green light of creating this style of game in this current market. I think that's maybe the bigger question here. And then the bigger question of Jeff Keighley putting in a position at the end of the show of just not having the awareness. I don't know. I guess everyone's saying, hey, he got paid a lot of money for that time slot, but just not having the awareness of the video game, like the pulse in the video game world of putting it there, kind of was putting it in a bad spot. I mean, everyone pretty much immediately recognized that. And, even Keighley was talking on, Twitter or X a couple days before saying, hey, everyone's going to be saying they're sorry to me in a couple days. And, they had a lot of bravado, and they had a lot of, I don't want to say arrogance, but they just seemed really, really confident for this game, where immediately everyone was like, hey, no one's really interested in this. And I think that's kind of a crazy disparity there going on. But Highguard is available now. It is free to play, which I think is very nice if you want to try this. And I think there are situations where people like this. Might be your cup of tea, but so you can definitely go try it out because it's free to play. Highguard available now. All right, the last bit of news for this week was something I mentioned last week, that MLB The Show 26 said, hey, there's not going to be a new cover athlete. So I think me and everyone in the world went to, what are they going to have on the cover? Is it going to be a stadium? Is it going to be a mascot? Is it going to be, who knows? But, I should have just thought a little bit further, and all they did was they're running it back with a previous cover athlete. So they said no new cover athlete. That's because they're going back to the well, and they're running it back with Aaron Judge. So he is your MLB The Show 26 cover athlete, and I think he's a really great one to have. Judge is a great player. He's very marketable and well known, and box office. He's fun to watch. So Aaron Judge, even though I'm just not a Yankees fan, even though they got my guy Max Fried up there, but I think just a kind of a smart move. The cover looks cool. And MLB The Show is definitely a high-quality video game. It's going to release on March 17th. I believe it's multi-platform now, if it's the case. I don't know if it comes to Switch on that day, but I'm sure it's on PS5 and Xbox. And I don't know about that. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure MLB The Show is coming out multi-platform upon release these days. And early access will actually begin March 13th, I guess, if you paid for the extra premium version for MLB The Show 26. And that is all. I'm ready for the MLB season in general. So it's kind of like when Madden comes out, the football season's starting soon. When MLB The Show comes out, you can start kind of smelling the baseball going on. So that's everything I got for you for the midsection. That's all the video game news. We talked about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. We talked about Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, the direct that took place. We talked about Splatoon 3, the Virtual Boy, Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O World Stage, the Disney Afternoon Collection, Ball Times Pit, Ball X Pit, Scott Pilgrim EX, Final Fantasy 7, Marathon, Nioh 3, Reigns, The Witcher, Highguard, and MLB The Show 26. So that's all the video game news for you, and those are all the video game thoughts I have for you this week. But there is one final section of the show, the Miscellaneous Talk section. That's going to be after this music, and I am going to talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. I like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams, and I actually got to see one of my favorite teams play in the past week, so I'm going to tell you about that after this music. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 165. This is the Miscellaneous Talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So as always, I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And starting off with the NFL, my favorite team, the Carolina Panthers, are in the offseason. I really can't think of anything to report there. This has been our first weekend without football, and then we'll have the Super Bowl next week. It's going to be the Patriots versus the Seahawks. And I guess I'm anticipating the Patriots are going to win. Not really too excited for the Super Bowl in general. Even the Final Four I thought was pretty disappointing, but that might just be me. But other than that, it's the offseason for the Carolina Panthers, so nothing for me to report about them. Now, I've been a halfway fan of this next team since I've become a North Carolina resident the last few years. That's the Charlotte Hornets. And I actually got to go see them play yesterday, so that was pretty nice. But the other thing to know about the NBA is the February 5th is the trade deadline coming up, so that's actually taking place in the upcoming week. So I definitely want to probably talk about some of those trades and things next week of what happened. And since last week with the Hornets, last Saturday they played Washington after the podcast, so I did record on Saturday last week. The Hornets won 119-115. Monday versus Philly, the Hornets won 130-93. Wednesday at Memphis, the Hornets won 112-97. Thursday at Dallas, shout out to Stoop Whoop, the Hornets won 123-121. On a win streak. And then yesterday, they played San Antonio in Charlotte. The game was slated to be at 3 p.m., but they moved it up to noon because of the snow that I was talking about, and it really did snow, but I actually ended up going to this game. Got a pretty inexpensive ticket. I figured I figured not a lot of people would be going to this game, and it would be early enough in the day where the snow wasn't too crazy. And when I got there, I was still able to really kind of, sit by myself sort of thing. There was plenty of room to kind of sit where you wanted, just kind of in your section, but there was, I've seen less people at a game before watching the Hornets, so that was, pretty cool to see. And I guess maybe a little bit of the win streak had people a little bit extra enticed to get out there, even amongst the snow. But it's pretty rough out there in the world today. I think everything kind of froze overnight. I don't think it's going to get over freezing today. It's going to be flirting with getting over freezing today, so just very cold. And it was fun to go see the Hornets even in the snow. It was really, really cool to see Victor Wembanyama. I was telling my friends he looks like a Monstar out there from Space Jam. He's incredible to see out there. And pretty much every time he does anything positive on the court, people are cheering for him. It's pretty crazy just because it looks so unique with him being 7'4". And it seemed like they're being a little bit sparing with his minutes, but he definitely played more like in the crunch time and crunch minutes. And there was one point where LaMelo ISO'd him. LaMelo got kind of by him and then threw the ball, and Brandon Miller hit a three off a hockey assist, I believe it was. But super impressive to watch is definitely the takeaway from seeing Wembanyama. He's a young guy, and who else was impressive? I'm talking about the Hornets. Castle was. It was cool to see De'Aaron Fox play. I've always kind of liked watching him play. The guy with the red hair, I think Suchan's his name. He was in street clothes, but he kept coming off the bench, kind of antagonizing the Hornets a little bit. And they were trying to get him teed up at one point. And I thought he was going to get teed up. But it was a really, really good game. It was a close game all the way through. Brandon Miller was balling. Con Knuppel was balling. LaMelo was balling. Musa was balling for the Hornets. And I'm really liking their coach. And the thing I want to say about the Hornets, I think they, with the trade deadline coming up, I think they would be crazy to trade LaMelo. And I think they have a good core going. Even with Miles Bridges, he was playing good too. I think he's maybe the only argument of who you could trade away because he's a little bit older than the guys. But I think and you can't really pay everybody, but he's a really nice one to have. And they have some good pieces on their team, and they're figuring some things out is what I would say. And I think they would kind of be foolish to trade LaMelo. I think he gets kind of like joked on a lot. Maybe some of it is rightfully so, but he's still a young player. He's still, has the potential to get better. He does a lot of things that are really, really unique, and these guys are working well together. It's not like a one-man show. They do a little bit of that where, the person dribbles the air out of the ball. But, I think that kind of happens with a lot of teams. But generally, they're playing a pretty good game with the pick and roll with LaMelo, getting the ball to Brandon Miller, letting Con Knuppel cook. They have plenty of guys who can go get a bucket. And, if you could have some shooting around those guys, even Miles Bridges can get some shots and go get his own basket. So, they got, plenty of guys who can do things. And Musa was out there, being really athletic and energetic and playing defense and getting blocks and getting rebounds. Even the other big, really tall guy, number 11, he was out there getting some rebounds because he's just like a giant house of a man out there getting rebounds. It was really crazy to watch. And then just seeing Wembanyama out there amongst the other people just looking just completely unique out there. So I had a great time watching the Hornets play. They were wearing their City Connect jerseys, which I don't know if I'm a fan of. It was really disorienting at the beginning of the game that the Hornets were wearing orange, and the Spurs warm-ups were like almost the same green color as the Hornets. So it was like which team was which at first, but really great time. Hornets played tough. The Spurs played tough. It was a close game, and the Hornets won, so that's as good as I could ask for. And I made it home in the snow. So next week, the Hornets have New Orleans, Houston, and Atlanta. And I think that one's at Atlanta. I believe, because I think Atlanta is coming to Charlotte pretty soon, and I might go try to see that again. But the Atlanta Hawks have been disappointing me ever since they traded Trey away. It's like, hey, maybe if you trade away the heart and soul of your team that has been your superstar for many years, maybe there's going to be like an after or hangover effect. And I think the Hawks have really, really been feeling that. And I've been feeling that as a fan of the Hawks as well. And, last Monday versus Indiana, the Hawks won 132-116. Wednesday at Boston, the Hawks won 117-106. Thursday versus Houston, the Hawks lost 86-104. Saturday at Indiana, the Hawks have lost 124-129. So they've definitely been playing maybe 500 or less than 500 balls since trade's been traded. And I think Jalen Johnson's numbers have been way, way down. So I think I'm a little bit in scary territory with the Hawks with the trade deadline. I don't really think they should do anything besides maybe just punt on the year. I don't think they need to make any trades for Anthony Davis. I don't think they need to make any trades for Big Cat. Well, maybe Big Cat. I think he could maybe be less of a expensive trade haul. But Giannis or Anthony Davis, I don't know. I think maybe Giannis is even a little bit too early. Maybe not like following the Jalen Johnson timeline. Maybe Big Cat would be a little bit more in that age range. But either than that, I'm not very hopeful on the Hawks right now, and I'm still very disappointed that they traded Trae Young. Next week, the Hawks are going to play Miami, Utah, and Charlotte. And that is all I have for my NBA thoughts of the week. My favorite Major League Baseball team, the Atlanta Braves, nothing to report there. It's the offseason for them. But the 2026 season does begin on Friday, March 27, 2026 versus the Royals. And spring training got to be starting pretty soon. Stoop Woot already messaged me if we're doing fantasy baseball again. I definitely want to do that. And I cannot wait for it. I'm just ready to watch some baseball. I'm ready to watch the Braves. I'm ready to watch some other teams. And I am excited for it. So that's all I really want to say there about baseball. No other general news. Luis Ariz, he's Venezuelan. I think he's like early 30s. Going to be going from the Padres last year, going to be going to play for the Giants was the news. I didn't really see any terms of the deal, but that was the some news that broke last night. And I think I wanted to mention Jose Ramirez, who's one of my favorite non-Braves in the league. He got a deal to stay with the Guardians. And I wanted to bring up some talk about the structure of his deal, but I ended up not taking those notes. But shout out to Jose Ramirez for getting another bag of money. He's one of my other favorite guys. Him and Naylor, who's up in Seattle now, are two of my non-Braves favorite players to watch in the MLB. So go MLB. I can't wait for you to begin. And those are all the sports thoughts I have for you this week. So we talked about my favorite teams, the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Braves, and just a little bit of general MLB news. So that's going to wrap up the Miscellaneous Talk section. Pretty short and sweet. I'm going to wrap up the entire show in general. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. Find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch you play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, Patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support this show. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I really, really appreciate you. January of 2026 was my second best month ever on downloads for this podcast. So I just want to say I really, really appreciate anyone out there listening to any of my podcasts. Sometimes you're listening to old ones, and it's just extremely incredible anytime I see anybody listening. So I just, appreciate you really greatly out there in the world. And, I look forward to doing this for a very, very long time, and I have so much fun doing it. And I'm just glad to be here doing it today. Have my power on out here in the snowstorm. T's and P's to everyone out there in the cold. Anyone out there just in the world. If you're doing poorly, I hope that changes. If you're doing good, I hope that continues. And I hope you come back and listen to another episode of Dep Lewis Show next week, because that's where I'll be. And I will talk to you then. Goodbye.